A script is like a recipe for cooking. All the instructions for making the finished video are in the script. Who the characters are, the lines they will speak, the action that occurs, the order things happen, and the way your story is going to be told are all part of the script. In this video, we're going to teach you the basics of putting a script together, from your good idea all the way to writing your script in the proper format. Scripts are used to create new videos, projects. This is not just about filming something that is happening like a birthday party. This is art. But before you can get to that, the first thing you're going to need is a good idea. Don't be intimidated about this part. If you're making the video for a class project, chances are you at least have a starting point or a general subject you're supposed to be making your video about. If you don't, or if you're just doing this for fun, think about things that interest you. You've probably got a favorite movie or a favorite book. Why did you like it? What kinds of stories interest you? Still stumped? Well, why not try brainstorming techniques to help you flesh out your idea? Think about what you want to accomplish with your story. What is the main idea you're trying to communicate? What are some ways you can express that idea? Maybe bring in a friend or partner on it. Remember that movies are about both audible and visual communication. So when you're brainstorming your idea, make sure you're thinking about actions and visual methods that can communicate those ideas as well as what you're trying to say in your dialogue. Pen and paper works fine for these exercises, but if you like working on your computer or if you need a little help organizing your thoughts, there are even software applications to help you do your brainstorming. One popular software package is called Inspiration. And as you can see, it has a variety of functions from webbing to outlines that will help you organize your thoughts and hopefully get those creative juices flowing. Now that you've got your good idea, it's time to write your script. What you're looking at here is a sample movie script. In fact, it's the script for the project video we're going to be making. Did you know there's a standard format for most all movie scripts? Let's look at each part. This is called the slug line. The slug line signals the beginning of a new scene and contains important information about the setting. The first part tells you if the scene takes place inside or outside. In movie speak, we say interior and exterior, and it gets abbreviated as INT period for interior and EXT period for exterior. Next comes the location or where the scene takes place. This is followed by a dash and then the time of day. Most often, this just means day or night. So in this example, the slug line tells us the scene we're about to read takes place inside a living room during the day. After the slug line comes the action. This text tells us what is happening in the scene. Joe walks into the room. Joe waves at Steve. The sound of a helicopter is heard. Joe and Steve turn up the music. If you want your characters to talk in your video, you need to write their dialogue in the script. This is a two-part process. First, you need to indicate which character is speaking. This is done by indenting about to the middle of the page and putting the character's name in all capital letters, like this. On the next line, indenting maybe only half as much as before, you would then write their lines. If a new character is speaking, skip a line and repeat the process by putting that character's name in the center in all caps and then writing their dialogue indented below it. Notice how easy it is to tell the character names apart from the dialogue and both of them apart from the action. So in our sample scene, Joe is going to walk into the room, say hello to Steve. Steve will reply, and then we're going to hear a helicopter zoom overhead. Steve will speak, and then Joe will turn up the music. It will look like this. Here is the slug line telling us that a new scene is beginning, where it takes place, and the time of day. Here the action is described. Joe walks in. He says hello. So we see his character name and then his line below. Steve replies. So we start a new line by indicating his character name, and then we put his dialogue below it. Next, they hear the sound of a helicopter. This is an action, so it goes back to the edge of the page like this. Steve has a line, so as before, character name and then what they say. Then another action, and so on. Pretty cool, huh? Now you know what a script looks like and how to put your own together. But what if you're doing something a little more complicated like a multimedia presentation where sound and animation and other things are all happening at the same time? This is a multimedia script. Think of it like a vertical timeline. The beginning of your presentation is at the top and the end is at the bottom. Each of these columns is for a different element. This column can be for music. This column can be for dialogue. This column can be for sound effects, and this column can be for action or animation. If all of these were happening at the same time, they'd be all in a row like this. Or if music and animation happened at the same time and halfway through the narration some sound effects had to happen on specific lines, you can use this multimedia format to make a very accurate blueprint of when each of the elements in your multimedia presentation should be cued. Choose the format that will be most useful for your purposes. Hang on. Don't start cracking those knuckles and start living the starving screenwriter dream just yet. One last little piece of advice. As much fun as it can be to let your imagination go wild, if you're writing with the intent to actually make the video, you might want to think realistically. Do you have access to a cast of thousands, flaming swords, and a fleet of underwater steam-powered robots? If you do, hey, you're totally awesome, and I'd like to talk to you about where you got those robots. But if you don't, you might not want to write them into the script for a video that's due next Thursday. At the student level, and even at the I'm dirt poor, but I really love making movies level, you'll save yourself a lot of headaches down the road if you write with some idea in your head of how you're going to pull it off. But that's just advice, and that in no way should discourage you from thinking big. There are lots of ways to pull off underwater robots without having to actually show a fleet of thousands of robots, you know. The magic of film and all that jazz. Okay, my script says I'm done, and to say it's your turn to write. See you in the movies.